Bonjour à toutes et à tous et bienvenue sur Blabla Katie. My name is Katie and today we're going to blabla about how to get a visa for France from the US in 2021. So first things first, if you're trying to go to France for a period of less than 90 days and you're from the United States, then you do not need to apply for any visa. You're going to automatically get what's called a tourist visa. I do talk more about this, the different sort of visa situations in my video, how to find a job in France after the pandemic, so definitely check that out if you haven't seen it already. But if you're staying in France for longer than 90 days for some specific reason, then you're going to have to apply for a specific visa. In the past, I have had to go through two different visa processes, but I'm not going to talk about them at all. I think that in 2018 or 2019 they changed the whole system, so my prior experiences aren't really relevant, but I'm currently going through the process again to be lectrice d'anglais. I'll be teaching English at the university level in France. The contract is for a period of 1 full year, so I need a long stay visa. Since I'm going through the process right now, I'm going to share with you the overall gist of what the process is supposed to look like. I'm going to give you a specific timeline where I break down on exactly what day certain parts of the process were fulfilled. I'll be showing you the application as well as how to book an appointment. I'm going to talk about the different documents that I'll be bringing to the appointment, and along the way I'm going to address certain issues that I had or certain questions that I keep seeing online popping up regarding this visa process. So there's kind of a lot of information, but please also do your own research. If you're in Tapif, I'm pretty sure that there's a guidebook, if not for this year, at least for 2020, that you can refer to. You can also look for the Facebook group Assistant de Langue Tapif or something like that. And if you're going to be a lecteur like me, or if you're going to be a maître de langue or something like that, you're definitely going to want to check in with your specific university, with your language coordinator, with other lecteurs and maîtres de langue. And there's another Facebook group that you'll want to check called something like Lecteur, Lectrice de langue en France. We're all going to get through this. So to give you an overall gist of what it's like for an American to be applying for a long stay visa to be a lecteur in France in 2021, first the HR department from the French university that I'll be working in needs certain documentation from me. Once I give that documentation to them, they can then apply for a visa in France on my behalf. I have no idea what that process looks like for them, but they have to do something on their own. After that point, once they have filed for my visa, they then send me an email letting me know, okay, you have the green light, you can now apply for a visa in the United States and book an appointment at the VFS Center. It is then at the appointment at the VFS Center, which is a third-party site, to process the visa application. After that point, if you're approved, it takes them, I think, up to 3 weeks to put the sticker in your passport and send it back to you. So this process has to be done in the United States. I can't just go to France and do the visa process there. I have to go to a VFS Center in the US, and there are 9 different ones across the country, and that's just the way it has to be apparently. So now I want to give you a specific timeline and break down all of these different events as they have been occurring in my life. So, on April 22nd, I was offered the position to be a lecteur d'anglais in France, and on April 24th, I formally accepted the position. On April 27th, the English language coordinator sent me what's called a proposition de nomination. I had to fill this out as well as attach my CV in French and the photocopy of the first 2 pages of my passport, the one with my photo and with my signature, as well as a photocopy of my master's degree and an informal translation that I did of that degree. I was also told that at some point I might have to send an official translation or a certified one. So I haven't done that yet, but it's something that I'm trying to be aware of. So I sent all of that back on the same day. Then all throughout May, I was put in touch via email with a bunch of former lecteurs at the same university. And then on May 27th, one of these specific former lecteurs said that if you wait long enough to be invited to book the appointment at the VFS Center, then there's not going to be any appointments left. I will show you how to book an appointment on the website in a little bit. She recommended that we book the appointment ahead of time even if we don't already have the okay from the university, which is totally possible because they don't ask you for confirmation of that before you book the appointment. Unfortunately, I neglected that email. For some reason, I just didn't see it. And on June 22nd, the same lecteur sent another email to reiterate this advice. The next day on June 23rd, I received an email from my university's HR department, and I was asked to send a ton of documents back to this department. The first was called a notice de renseignement, so asking for a lot of my information. Then a RIB, and this is specific to French bank accounts, so since I don't have a French bank account right now, I can't provide that. And finally, copies of my carte vitale, which is sort of like a health insurance card. So this email was asking for quite a few things that, as somebody who's not yet in France, I just don't have access to. Our language coordinator sent an email with more relevant instructions of what to send back, and we were told to really only fill out the notice de renseignement. And I do want to say that on one of the pages, the notice de renseignement asks for your French social security number. We were told that if you don't have a French social security number, then not to put it on. And I was a little confused because since I worked in France in the past through Tapi, I'd already been given a social security number for France, but I wasn't sure if it was still valid. I found out that French social security numbers are permanent, so if you already have one, then that's just what your number is. On the same day, I read the former lecture's advice to book the appointment ahead of time. I finally saw the second email. So I went on to the site Visa France or something like that, France Visa. Regardless, I went onto this website, filled out the application, and then came to the VFS Global website where I was able to book my appointment. Again, I will show you how to do that in a little bit. Unfortunately, on June 23rd, there were barely any appointments left. Like I said before, there are 9 VFS centers across the United States. I'm closest to the one in New York, but there were no appointments there, nor were there any appointments in Boston or DC or Chicago, etc. And I could only find appointments in Miami. So I ended up booking an appointment in Miami for, I want to say, July 26th. And I knew that at this point, I was not going to have the documentation that I needed from my university to have the appointment on July 26th. But what I told myself was that they are going to open more appointments. So at least if I book one now, I'll be able to reschedule it for a later time. So that was the thinking behind it. I ended up paying somewhere around $70. I think that the appointment itself is either 30 or 40 bucks. I also paid the remaining amount. So again, either 30 or 40 bucks for them to give me a specific mail service where they would send my passport back overnight once it was ready with the visa. So yeah, 70 bucks. 70 bucks. So on June 25th, I randomly decided to again check the VFS Global website and saw that they had opened a ton more appointments up until August 6th. So after a bunch of back and forth on the phone, I found out that even though I had an appointment booked in Miami, I could not reschedule it for one in New York, which is what I kind of was hoping to do. Instead, what I had to do was book a completely new appointment for New York. And when I did so, I had to do something specific with my passport number. But again, I'll show you this once I go through the booking process. I have it for August 6th. Once again, I don't think that that's going to give me enough time to get the documentation I need from my university. So I'm really hoping that they're going to open up some more appointments sometime soon, and I'll be able to reschedule again for a later date in August. This time around, I only paid the 30 or 40 bucks for the appointment itself, but I'm aware that once I go to the visa appointment, I'm going to have to pay for the mail service again. I do want to say that if you're rescheduling your appointment in the same center, you shouldn't have to pay again. A couple days later, on June 29th, I called VFS just to see if I could cancel the first appointment. I kind of knew I wasn't going to get a refund, but I hoped that maybe somebody else would be able to take that free slot. And I was told over the phone that you cannot cancel your appointments. So it's really a shame because in addition to having lost $70, somebody else now can't take that slot. It definitely doesn't make sense, but I just want to warn you so that if you're thinking of booking an appointment in one center and then jumping ship if you see one in a center closer to you, try to refrain from doing that just because then nobody can take that first appointment that you're just not showing up to. So after finding out that I could not cancel this appointment, the next day on June 30th, my university's HR sent my contract and I had to sign it and then send it back, which I did in the same day. On July 1st, I got confirmation that they received the contract and that it was in the process of being signed by whoever needs to sign it at the university and that it would be sent back to me as soon as possible. So today is July 6th. That brings you totally up to speed to where I'm at in this process. I'm still checking the VFS Global site every morning and every night to see if they're opening up new spots. And I think that should be happening soon. I read somewhere in one of the Facebook groups that I'm in that they open new appointments every 2 weeks. So definitely keep checking if you still don't have an appointment. Now, I do want to show you the application and how to book an appointment and how to reschedule an appointment. There are 2 things I want to talk about with the application. First, when it asks for your plans, what I've been told to do is click on business and then click on recrutement. This is advice that I saw somebody give in the lecture Facebook group after that person had called the embassy. So it's probably the best advice to go off of. Also in regards to your address, people are wondering what they should put down. If they should just do the school that's technically hosting them or that's at least paying their paycheck, or if they should write the hostel or the Airbnb that they're staying in. And pretty much what I've seen again within the Facebook groups is that the people who are handling your visa application really are just making sure that you have a place to be when you arrive. They want to make sure that you physically have a spot. I personally am really lucky. Just in the past few weeks, I found out that a couple of my friends are subletting their apartment, so I'm just subletting from them. I'm obviously using that address, but I've seen people say that it's totally fine to put your university's address or to put an Airbnb or a friend's place that you're staying at. Now I want to show you how to book an appointment and reschedule an appointment online. So if you go just to vfsglobal.com, it'll bring you to this page. You say where you're applying from and where you're applying to. Here, this is actually a really good good resource, Apply for Visa. This will give you a lot of information regarding the visa application, but we want to go to book an appointment, book now. So this is theoretically after you have filled out your application. So you want to come down here and say, if you have already filled the France visa application form, I accept, you don't really have a choice, book an appointment now. So if you don't already have an email ID and a password, you'll just have to register. And I have noticed that when you go down to the enter the text shown in the image, you do have to put it in caps locks. I don't really know if that's common knowledge, but I got locked out of my account because I wasn't putting it in caps locks and tried way too many times, so just be aware of that. See over here, schedule, reschedule, etc. You want to say schedule appointment, and they're going to ask for your visiting country, your residing country, you already filled that out, the center, and this is where you want to choose the one that is closest to you. So for me, I would click on New York. You'll see here this little red message. There are no open seats available for selected center. If you see that, do not panic. Like I said before, they are going to open more appointments. It just means there's nothing available right now. So I'm going to click through to see if there's appointments anywhere just to move onward. Now I can click on what sort of appointment. So for me, I clicked on long stay language assistants and lecturers. I've also heard people just click on long stay visa. I don't know which one is technically correct, but what I clicked on was long stay language assistants and lecturers, and then you say continue. So at this point, you're going to have to add customer. You're going to add all of this information. Beyond this point, you click submit, and then a calendar is going to show up. If there's any green squares over the numbers, that's what's going to tell you that there are available times. And then once you decide what time and day, you then move on to paying for the actual appointment. You also have the option at that point to pay for the envelope for them to send it via the mail. Honestly, I don't know if it's better to do that now or to just pay when you're at the center, but that's also an option if you wanted to do that ahead of time. Now, what I do want to know at this point, if you've already made an appointment in one center and you want to make an appointment in a completely different center, then under this add new customer, you have to make sure that you add a 0 at the end of your passport number. Since we don't have the capacity to cancel the prior appointment, your passport number is already going to be in the system. So if you put it in without the extra 0 at the end, it's not going to allow you to make a new appointment because it'll say, no, you already have one. So just make sure under add new customer, you're doing your passport number and then a 0. Only in the case of if you have an appointment already scheduled and you need to make an appointment in a completely different center. I also want to stress that you should not do this under the actual France visas application. That should be your correct passport, no 0 at the end. So if you already have an appointment that is scheduled and you just want to reschedule it for a later date, that's when you would go up to reschedule appointment. So once you schedule the appointment, you will get an email with the reference number. That's what you put here, your passport number, and again, don't forget to add the extra 0 if you had to move to a different center and go through all of that. Add the email that you use for the site as well as your mobile number. And again, it'll just show you a calendar and if there are any dates that you can reschedule your appointment to. So that is the application, booking the appointment, booking a second appointment, and rescheduling an appointment. Last thing I want to talk about are documents to bring to the appointment. So once you submit the actual application to France Visa, everything that you filled out in that application gets put into a sort of application form that you have to print, sign, date, and bring to the appointment. It is at the end of this application that you're going to see your registration receipt and a list of things to bring. So I have that printed out here. First, under forms, you're going to bring your signed and dated application form, so you'll have to print that. You're also going to bring the receipt for the France Visa's application, which is the same sheet that has this list on it. For the prerequisites, you need to bring a travel document issued less than 10 years ago with 2 blank pages at least, with a period of validity at least 3 months longer than the date on which you intend to leave the Schengen area. This for me would be the passport, so make sure that if you have a passport, you have enough blank pages and that it's not going to expire. This also says be sure to scan all pages of your travel document containing visas, entry and exit stamps, or any other inscription. Next, it says ID photograph, so I'm just gonna go get photos taken at a CVS or a Walgreens, and I'll probably have at least 3 copies of that. There's also a form for if you're not a US citizen, please provide proof of your legal status, and it has the specific examples there. Under the purpose of travel and stay, it says copies of diplomas, proof of qualifications, and certificates of employment. This is going to depend on what it is that you're doing in France. Personally, because I'm very paranoid, I'm going to bring as much documentation as I can. I'm going to bring both my bachelor's degree and my master's degree. I'm probably going to get them officially translated as well, although I don't really know if that's necessary. And of course, I'm going to bring any documentation from my university that says that I'm working with them. Finally, it says work permit obtained by your employer from the French administration. This I'm very unsure about. I actually need to still ask around, but I would assume that again, the university is going to send me that because this is something that is obtained by my employer. So We'll see with that. But this is not just everything that I'm bringing, because according to some people who've already had their appointment, you want to make sure that you're bringing your flight information. You also have to bring proof of insurance. And this is something where, to be honest, again, I have to do a little more research on this. So normally when you're in France, the universal healthcare or the public healthcare system doesn't kick in until after the first 3 months that you're living there. But because I already have a French social security number and I already have a carte vitale, don't know if I also need to get specific traveler's insurance. Again, something I'll have to look into, but for now, it's a big question mark for me. I've also been told by former lecteurs and also by the university itself that I will have to bring the email confirmation that my university is going to send me once they have filed for my visa in France. And aside from all of these documents, I'm also going to bring proof of my vaccination, because that can't hurt, my last 3 months of bank statements, the subletting contract that I'm going to create with the friends who I'm subletting from to show proof that yes, I am staying at the place that I'm staying at, and of course the contract that my university is going to send back to me, which I mean honestly just kind of goes along with whatever they send me, I'm bringing to the appointment. I'm going to make sure that I have originals of everything, as well as at least 3 copies. In the past, I've always had to have 3 copies of everything, and I've actually needed them when I've gone to my previous visa appointments. I don't know if it's necessary this time around, but I'm traumatized, so I'm going to do that. Obviously, if there are any other documents specific to your situation that you think you need to bring, do that. And also if you want to put them in the comments, that might help out some other people. So I am probably going to do a part 2 to this video just because there are quite a few other things to get done before I get the visa. Please feel free to ask me any questions in the comments if you have any, or to add any advice that I didn't touch on that could help other people. If you got any value out of this video, please do give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you next time. À la prochaine et bon courage.